They call you weak. They call you unmotivated. They call you unambitious. They say you don't pursue your goals, that you're letting life pass you by. They point the finger and suggest that the problem is your lack of focus, your laziness, your lack of discipline. But no one sees what's going on inside. No one sees the invisible trap that has surrounded you since the day you began to exist, since the day you were taught to obey. You wake up early, face crowded transportation, drown in seemingly endless obligations. You meet deadlines, follow rules, respond to hierarchies. And at the end of the day, there's barely time left to breathe, let alone dream. And even then, it's not enough. It never is. The system is not satisfied with your effort. It demands more production, more silence, more adaptation. And the more you give in, the more you seem to be losing yourself. But the problem was never you. There is something much bigger at work in your life. A kind of control so subtle that few people notice it. A rationalized, bureaucratic system designed to seem natural. Max Weber called it the steel cage, an invisible structure that imprisons us with promises of progress and stability, but which slowly steals our souls. You think you have a choice, but the path is already laid out. Study, obey, produce, pay bills, accept. Don't complain, don't question. And if you're unhappy, it's your fault. Because the system, they say, works perfectly. But how can a system that breaks so many people inside work perfectly? What they call weakness may actually be the muffled cry of someone who still feels, of someone who has not yet been completely swallowed up by the cold logic of the machine. Because if everything is measured by performance, by numbers, by productivity, where does dignity fit in? Where does the soul fit in? Emotion? Rest? You are not weak. You are tired, stuck, oppressed by a rhythm that was not created for human beings but for gears. A rhythm that turns men and women into replaceable parts, into numbers on a spreadsheet, into silenced voices in crowded offices. And when you try to escape this invisible chain, the system reacts. It labels you. It sabotages you, because the machine does not accept being questioned. But the truth is that the greatest strength that exists lies in those who begin to perceive this structure, in those who see that the prison does not have bars, but it does have rules that no one dares to break. And that's why they judge you, because you stopped running without knowing why. Because you started to wonder if this path is really yours, because in the middle of the noise, you heard a silent call, and that's scary. Because whoever feels, whoever questions, whoever pauses, threatens the order that sustains the invisible. You are not weak. You are awakened. And that, in today's world, is the most daring thing anyone can do. Max Weber called it an iron cage, a modern prison that uses neither chains nor guards, but efficiently controls every step of our lives. It is a cage made of rules, protocols, deadlines, and goals, not imposed with violence, but with promises, not built by force, but sold as security. And the scariest thing? We all help to keep it standing. You are born and you are already part of it. Schools mold you from an early age to fit in. They teach you to obey before asking, to memorize before understanding, to compete before collaborating. The system praises those who follow the rules, those who don't cause trouble, those who give their all, even when exhausted, those who adapt without making a fuss. Because adaptation has become synonymous with success, even when the price is one's own essence. You follow the steps, you study, choose a stable career, enter the job market, and suddenly you are stuck in a routine that swallows up your days and dulls your desires. Wake up, work, eat anything, try to sleep, repeat. Productivity has become an altar and rest, a sin. And if you stop, even for a moment, the world accuses you of falling behind. But behind what? Society has turned everything into a performance. Even leisure has become a task. Even art has become a metric. Social media pressures you to smile even when you're in ruins, to show off a perfect life that you don't have time to live. And when you're exhausted, you're still accused of not having the strength. But no one asks, what's the strength for? To keep pretending. This structure is not natural. It was constructed, and its foundation is obedience disguised as freedom. They tell you that you can be whatever you want, as long as you are willing to kill yourself for it. As long as you accept the price of losing time, health, and sometimes even meaning. But maybe you've already felt this, that feeling of suffocation without knowing why, of not recognizing yourself in the clothes, the roles, the goals, of seeming like a stranger, living the life that others said was the right one. And yet, you keep going. Because leaving requires courage, and above all, it requires awareness. Weber explained that the strongest domination is that which becomes routine, when the control is so well disguised that it doesn't even seem like control. When the dominated helps to maintain the domination, when you yourself reinforce the cage because you have been taught that it is your protection. But the cage has keys, many, only they are hidden in difficult questions, in small choices, in acts of silent rupture, in moments when you dare to say, "This is no longer useful to me." The key is not outside. It is within you. It is in the moment you realize that that supposed failure is not your fault. It is the reflection of a model that was not made for the human soul to thrive, only to produce. The weakness they see in you is actually resistance in the form of tiredness. It is your body and mind refusing to continue like a machine. It is your essence screaming, even if you do not yet have the words to translate that scream. And the truth is that anyone who begins to see is no longer completely trapped. Because seeing is already the beginning of freedom. What you feel is not weakness, it is meaninglessness. It is the emptiness that sets in when everything around you demands results, but never asks why. Modern life, as Weber warned, has become progressively disenchanted. The mystery, the sacred, the symbolic, all have been replaced by efficiency, control, and profit. It is as if the world has lost its soul. And you, in the midst of it, feel like a body present in a reality that is absent of truth. The rationalization that promised so much order and progress also brought a silent consequence, the erasure of the spirit. Today, everything needs to make sense within a logical, measurable, and justifiable system. The problem is that the human soul does not bend to graphs. Love does not fit into spreadsheets. Hope cannot be quantified. Time spent with those we love cannot be reported as productivity. But even so, they force us to try. You no longer feel pleasure in waking up because you know the day is already bought. Your time has already been sold before you even open your eyes. You are exhausted, but you cannot stop. You miss yourself, but you do not have time to find yourself. It is as if a part of you has been left behind, a part that still knows how to dream. Spirituality has become superstition. Art has become entertainment. Silence has become discomfort. And pain has become weakness. But perhaps you are suffering precisely because you still have a heart that beats outside the rhythm of the machines, because you still carry within you the desire for a truer, slower, more honest life. Max Weber was not against progress. He simply warned about the hidden cost we are paying. A cost that does not appear in the accounts, but is revealed in sleepless nights, in muffled cries, in sick bodies, in exhausted souls. And when everything becomes a means, the end disappears. You work, but you don't know why. You strive, but you find no fulfillment. You run, but you no longer know where you want to go. In this scenario, being sensitive is a rebellion. Stopping to breathe is a revolutionary act. Listening to yourself is almost dangerous, because those who listen to their own silence discover that they were taught to be silent. Those who slow down realize that they were never in a hurry. They were afraid. Those who observe understand that the chaos outside reflects the inner abandonment of a system that does not care about souls, only about functions. But there is a living spark within you, a point of light that the system has not yet managed to extinguish. It is this spark that makes you question, feel, cry, resist. It is this spark that reminds you, even in the midst of discouragement, that you were not born to be just another number. You were born with an identity, with a purpose, with something sacred that no corporate manual can define. The order that governs the modern world demands obedience, but true life demands presence. And perhaps your exhaustion is the first step towards this reunion with the essential. Perhaps this silent pain is revealing something that the system will never understand, that being is greater than doing, that the soul is more important than function. You are not lost. You are just looking for where your truth went. There comes a time when pain turns into clarity. You stop blaming yourself and start seeing. The burden isn't just yours, it's structural. The oppression doesn't just come from within. It's been shaped around you. And when that clarity dawns, even in the midst of exhaustion, you begin to change. Not in the way the world demands, but in the way your soul needs. Not to fit in, but to free yourself. Max Weber said that modern humans are guided by an instrumental logic. Everything must have a practical reason. Everything must serve an end. And as a result, we have lost the ability to make choices with deep meaning. Our actions have become automatic responses. Our daily routine has become a program. Life has become a script that repeats itself without a soul. But Weber also spoke of something that can break this cycle: meaningful action. It's when you stop and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Who defined this path? Is this effort really mine, or have I been taught to call it a dream? From these questions, something begins to crack inside the cage. A fissure, a ray of light. You may not be able to give it all up. You may still have to wake up early, deal with transportation, and do chores. But the way you do it changes. When you regain meaning, even the hard stuff becomes bearable. Because now you know what's yours, and what's an imposition. You start to notice the small acts of resistance, saying no when everyone expects you to accept, choosing silence when everyone else is shouting, paying attention to what gives you peace, even if it doesn't give you status, making time for what nourishes you, even if it doesn't generate profit, and most importantly, not lying to yourself anymore. It's not about noisy revolution. It's about small internal ruptures, about reconnecting with your own essence. Because when your whole life has been conditioned by external expectations, living truthfully becomes a subversive act. The cold rationality of the modern world wants you to believe that everything needs to have a useful, measurable, controlled purpose. But some things are valuable precisely because they don't fit into that. Love, for example, faith, time spent with someone who looks you in the eye, art that doesn't seek approval, conversation that heals without a prescription, silence that reveals what 1,000 voices have muffled. Breaking away from this system doesn't mean abandoning everything. It means re-enchanting what logic has turned into a burden. It means giving new meaning to what seemed empty. It means remembering that you can be part of the world without being shaped by it, that you can go with the flow without forgetting yourself. And when you begin to live like this, with presence, awareness, and intention, the cage no longer contains you. Because true captivity is forgetting who you are. And freedom begins the moment you decide to remember. You don't need to shout. Your own lucidity is already a whisper loud enough to disturb this entire structure. Now you understand. What they called weakness was just the symptom of a soul that had not yet given up on feeling. It was proof that something in you resisted, even without words, the cold format that the world tried to impose. It wasn't weakness. It was raw sensitivity. It was empathy without protection. It was truth without armor. And all of this, in this world, is dangerous. Because those who feel, bother. Those who awaken, threaten. Max Weber was never a man who offered easy consolation. He showed us the coldness of the system, yes, but he also gave us a key, the understanding that every action can have a meaning, a true purpose. Even inside the machine, even surrounded by gears, even under rules. You can rescue the meaning of each step. You can live, not by obligation, but by decision. The big change doesn't happen when the world changes, but when you change the way you move within it. When you understand that the approval of others is not worth more than inner peace. That productivity can't be more important than your health. That being admired doesn't mean being whole. That living well isn't about looking good. It's about feeling connected to yourself. This awareness gives you authority, not authority over others, but over yourself, over your time, your energy, your presence. You begin to choose more calmly, to speak more truthfully, to reject what empties you, to embrace what fills you. You begin to recognize yourself, not in the image that others have projected, but in the reflection of who you have always been. And little by little, the system loses control, not because it disappeared, but because you stopped obeying automatically. You started to filter, to question, to adapt. And this is a silent revolution. It is rebellion without fanfare. It is inner reconstruction. You still feel tired, of course. You still face routines and pressures. But now you know why. And this knowledge transforms. Those who call you weak don't know the battle you fight every day to continue being you. To keep the light that so many have extinguished burning. To not become just another number, just another robot, just another empty echo of a system that loves appearances but forgets the essence. Those who call you weak ignore that you carry the burden of realizing, and yet you keep walking. Weber showed us that freedom is not the absence of structure, but the ability to act meaningfully within it. And now you have that key, because you have begun to see yourself with different eyes, because you have accepted to feel what so many ignore, because you have decided to wake up, even if that means breaking with everything that seemed normal. You are strong, strong enough to stop, strong enough to change, brave enough to say, this is no longer for me, and wise enough to start over. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you now know what no one has told you. Your pain does not define you, it reveals you. Your silence is not surrender, it is preparation. Your pause is not weakness, it is a seed. They called you weak, but it was because they couldn't yet see the light you carry inside. And now, she's starting to shine. If this message spoke to you, if at any time you recognized yourself in these words, then this video was made for you. Leave your like. It helps this message reach those who also need to wake up. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Here, you will never walk alone. Every week, new reflections that break the silence of the system and rekindle the flame that the world tried to extinguish. You're not weak, you were just trapped. And now, it's starting to break free.